January 13, 2026. After 15 days of unrest, Iran's government claims it has restored order. Security forces now patrol the streets, replacing the chaos with uneasy calm. State media pushes the narrative of victory, but beneath the surface, anger simmers. The protests were the gravest threat to the regime since 1979, and the issues that sparked them remain unresolved. The government's swift declaration of control is meant to discourage further dissent and reassure supporters. Yet, the speed and force of the crackdown revealed deep vulnerabilities. Many wonder, is this truly the end, or just a pause before the next eruption? The calm is fragile, achieved through violence and mass arrests. For now, Iran's rulers project strength, but the foundations of their authority remain deeply unsettled. The protests began not with politics, but with economic desperation. A currency crisis wiped out savings and sent prices for food and medicine soaring. What started as anger over hardship quickly turned into a nationwide movement. Slogans shifted from economic complaints to direct challenges against Supreme Leader Khamenei. The protests spread rapidly, uniting Iranians across regions and classes. The government's failure to fix the economy became a symbol of deeper corruption and unaccountability. Calls for reform gave way to demands for fundamental change. Years of sanctions, mismanagement, and broken promises fueled the fury. The movement was no longer just about bread, it was about freedom and dignity. The regime now faced a powerful, united opposition demanding a new future. The price of bread had become the price of freedom. Iran's leaders responded to the unrest with defiance, refusing to acknowledge any internal grievances or the legitimacy of the protesters' demands. Instead, they quickly blamed foreign enemies for the turmoil, insisting that outside forces were responsible for stirring up dissent and chaos within the country. Supreme Leader Khamenei praised those who stayed home, calling them patriots, and warned the U.S. to stop its provocations, accusing Washington of meddling in Iran's affairs. Officials accused the U.S. and Israel of orchestrating the protests, dismissing the demonstrations as nothing more than foreign plots designed to destabilize the nation. This narrative aims to delegitimize protesters and rally loyalists against an external threat, painting the unrest as an attack on Iran's sovereignty. The government threatened harsh punishment, labeling demonstrators as enemies of God, a crime punishable by death. Officials vowed to show no mercy to those they accused of collaborating with foreign adversaries. Parliament warned of retaliation against any foreign attack, threatening to target U.S. bases in Israel if provoked and signaling a readiness for escalation. By framing the crisis as foreign aggression, the regime justifies its crackdown and distracts from its own failures, hoping to unite the public against a common enemy. The message is clear: dissent is treason, and Iran will respond with force. Any challenge to the regime is met with swift and severe consequences. The leadership refuses to bend, using blame and threats to consolidate power, determined to maintain control at any cost. The world is warned to stay out. The regime's grip tightens as borders close, security forces increase patrols, and foreign journalists face new restrictions. But despite the regime's efforts, the anger inside Iran remains, simmering beneath the surface and threatening to erupt again. The government's response was swift and brutal, leaving little room for negotiation or dialogue. Security forces flooded the streets using tear gas, water cannons, and even live ammunition to crush protests. The air was thick with fear and the sound of sirens as authorities moved quickly to stamp out any sign of resistance. Cities became battlegrounds, with burning barricades and shattered glass marking the front lines. The state reasserted control through overwhelming force, determined to silence dissent at any cost. A special tribunal was set up to fast-track thousands of arrests, raising fears of mass executions and long prison sentences for those accused. The charge of enemy of God hangs over detainees, sending a chilling message to anyone who might consider speaking out. To stifle dissent, authorities imposed a near-total internet blackout, cutting off communication and isolating Iranians from the world. Social media platforms went dark, and families lost contact with loved ones. State media became the sole voice, portraying protesters as violent rioters and foreign agents, while silencing independent journalism and alternative viewpoints. The blackout crippled the movement's ability to organize and share the truth. Activists were forced underground, relying on secret networks and hidden phones to communicate. Some managed to bypass restrictions using VPNs and other tools, but most were silenced, their voices lost in the digital void. The government's narrative dominated, justifying violence as necessary to restore order and blaming unrest on foreign interference. Human rights groups warn of unfair trials, harsh sentences, and a lack of due process for those detained. The crackdown is designed to intimidate and suppress, not to resolve. Fear now lingers in the streets, discouraging further protest. Iran's digital darkness hides the true scale of the crisis, leaving the world to wonder what is really happening behind closed doors. The human cost is staggering. International groups report at least 572 killed, including protesters and security forces. Some estimates are even higher, with hundreds more deaths under investigation. Over 10,000 have been arrested. Activists, journalists, ordinary citizens. Prisons overflow, and many detainees face harsh sentences or death without fair trials. Videos smuggled out show bodies lined up at forensic centers, silent witnesses to the violence. The government hides the true toll, focusing only on its own casualties. Families search for loved ones in fear and uncertainty. The numbers are grim, but the stories of loss and terror are even more haunting. The U.S. responded with economic pressure and tough rhetoric. President Trump imposed a 25% tariff on all exports from countries doing business with Iran, targeting major economies and isolating Tehran. The White House threatened further sanctions, cyber attacks, and even military action if the crackdown continued. Trump warned Iran's leaders of unprecedented consequences. While diplomacy remains an option, the administration's stance is clear maximum pressure, with all options on the table. The U.S. condemned the violence and internet blackout, framing its actions as support for the Iranian people. A travel advisory urged Americans to leave Iran, underscoring the volatility. The response is multifaceted: economic, military, and diplomatic. Each move risks escalation, pushing both nations closer to direct conflict. The world watches as tensions mount. The stakes have never been higher. Despite public hostility and fiery rhetoric, secret talks between Iran and the U.S. continue behind closed doors, far from the media's gaze. These meetings, shrouded in secrecy, are a lifeline in a time of escalating tension. Back-channel diplomacy offers a fragile path to de-escalation where every word and gesture is carefully measured. The stakes are high, and even the smallest misstep could unravel months of effort. Messages pass between Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi and U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff, with the Swiss embassy acting as a discreet intermediary. Each exchange is a delicate dance, balancing hope and suspicion. Both sides recognize the danger of open conflict, but deep mistrust remains. Years of animosity and broken promises cast a long shadow over every negotiation. Iran insists on respect and an end to threats before returning to nuclear talks. Officials demand concrete assurances, wary of repeating past mistakes. Meanwhile, international pressure mounts. European Parliament bans Iranian diplomats, and Iran summons Western envoys in protest. The diplomatic chessboard grows ever more complex. Pro-government rallies project unity, but the regime's legitimacy is shaken. Beneath the surface, cracks are beginning to show as the public's patience wears thin. The future is uncertain. Talks could ease tensions, or mounting pressure could spark a wider war. The world watches as the balance teeters between peace and chaos. The government's control is real but brittle. Public anger simmers beneath the surface, threatening to erupt at any moment. The seeds of the next uprising may already be sown, as a new generation quietly organizes and dreams of change. Iran stands at a crossroads, between dialogue and disaster, between hope and despair. The choices made now will echo for years to come. The world holds its breath, waiting to see which path Iran will choose and what the future will bring.